inch cutting deck on it, I believe. And I kind of modified it a little bit. We're making a new video, by the way. I ran out of time on the old one. I had to modify it a little bit. It's got a 12-volt car battery on the back of it because I was not a fan the way this mower is set up. The battery actually sits right next to the fuel tank underneath the hood, and maybe it was okay at one point, but it just bothers me having fuel and electricity right next to each other. Seems like a recipe for disaster, especially on an old mower. So I relocated the battery back there. Since I've got it, so we'll turn it on here. Modernized it a little bit, put a volt gauge on it so I can see how much volts the battery's charging. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's kind of hard to zoom in there. That blue light there, that's the volt gauge. There we go. Added on these very bright LED lights when I used to have my snow blade hooked up to it. I was using it to push snow. It worked good, but mower's not heavy enough, so it got stuck a lot, and finally gave up. I actually bought a snow blade for that guy right there, which, well, didn't buy it for that. I bought it for a Jeep that I no longer have. This one took over for it. The snow blade's sitting over yonder, but I don't want to walk over there. It's too dark. Anyway, installed these two toggle switches on this guy here. You can hear it clicking. It's got an electric clutch. One lights up blue, one lights up red. The blue one's for the lights, the red one's for the clutch, for the deck. Anyway, it's a pretty good mower for what it is. Then there's this little contraption that I built. I'm kind of proud of it. It's actually completely my idea. Never had any plans. Kind of borrowed the idea from Swisher. They make theirs a little bit different. Mine's actually based off of I forget what series Cub Cadet mower. Well, I'd say it's probably a early 70s Cub Cadet mower, back when they still had the really heavy decks on them. I'll give you a view of what the deck. I actually got two decks and ended up only using one. I hope you can see it. It is getting kind of dark out here tonight. That guy right there is the deck that it came off. It's a three blade deck. Got the two little short guys on the end, and then one big one in the center. And basically, how I made it a floating deck. So it's hanging off of eye bolts with I don't know what you want to call it, a removable chain link. I don't know what the technical name of those are. I got 4 of them here, and you can adjust the eye bolts. As you can see right here, there's an eye bolt hooked down to a chain, and then the whole thing kind of almost like a swing set, kind of pivots in there. And that's so when you hit bumps, you don't bust something. The motor is a 10.5 horse Briggs. Originally came off of a salt spreader. I acquired it from one of my bosses. He actually got it from the town guy that used to have it as a salt spreader. Decided he didn't want it anymore, so he got it, and then he said, "Oh, it's just sitting here. You can have it," because I actually bought a new motor for that project, and it ended up not working because I read something wrong when I ordered it, and it showed up, and it's only like I forget, 3 3/4 horse Briggs engine, which obviously isn't going to work for that, because like I said, that's originally, it probably had a 10 horse engine on it. The Cub Cadet did. I got those few decks. The guy was I guess parting out mowers, I guess would be lack of a better term. He was actually using the mowers for pulling mowers, so he wasn't using the decks anymore. So he was selling a whole bunch of mowers, or mower decks. And I said, "Hey, how much you want for the two?" I think they were 38-inch decks I was looking at. Well, then I got there and he said he had two 42-inch decks, and I said, "What would you be willing to do for that?" And he's like, "Oh, $100." I'm like, "Oh, I'll give you $100 for both of them." He said, "Yeah, sure." So made a deal with him and took them both home. Originally, I was going to stack them side by side and make kind of like a bat wing thing, and it made sense up here, but it was too hard to do in person. So I try to keep it simple. This one, it has a pull start, but you can start it with a battery. I just use jumper cables. It's actually pretty easy. I rigged it up here on a hitch. It pulls, think like a windrow or a swat or whatever. It pulls off to an angle, and well, there's the mower I used to pull it with. Well, unfortunately, that one has had an untimely demise. Something happened to the engine, I think last Saturday when I was mowing. Anyway, the way this trail mower is made, I put this handle on the back of it so I can kind of push it around because it's kind of heavy. It's just a push mower handle. The way this mower works, it's got two stationary wheels in the back, and then it's got two pivot wheels on the front. So as you go, it can track left and right when you're going around circles, so it doesn't drag or skip. And it actually mows very level. It was completely trial and error when I built this. I had no idea what I was doing. The only thing I knew is that I needed to get the biggest pulley I could for the engine so it didn't bog, because it's a direct drive, or not direct drive, it's a belt drive from the motor to the deck. And then there's obviously a deck to the blade, or there's a belt to the blades. So there's two belts on the mower. The belt was already on the deck when I got it. If it breaks, hoping it doesn't, because I don't know how long it is. And I don't remember what series mower it came off of, to be perfectly honest. Anyway, to the way I made it easier to start, because obviously since it's directly connected by a belt, you're spinning all three blades at the same time. It has a spring tensioner on it. Well, I welded basically a bar to the spring tensioner. I can show you right here. I got this rebar piece here. You pull back, and if you can see that moving, hopefully you can. You can see that moving. It releases the belt for basically releases the belt for the two outside blades, and it allows the engine to spin. It turns it into a push mower with maybe a little bit more drag because of the belt. But no, it'll start, and it does a pretty good job mowing. Really, for what it is, it's actually a pretty good engine. You don't have throttle control. It acts like a salt spreader, or a stationary engine or a generator where it just runs at 1 RPM all the time. And then when you get into a boggy situation, taller grass, it'll rev up a little bit. You kind of have to go slow with it because it doesn't always cut the best. But honestly, for what it is, it works really good. Anyway, back to the shed. We're going back in here. This is I kind of did some stuff on it. Like I said, it's wrong time of night to be doing this. I fixed the awning on it. The awning was about ready to fall off. I re-screwed it in there, and then I actually put some tin up there because it had shingles on there before, but the shingles were all falling off. So I bought a new treated OSB board, put it on top of there, and then I screwed the tin onto the top of it. And then I put this little yard light out here because, unfortunately, yes, you might say, well, there's a yard light right there. Why do you need that? That yard light doesn't always work. It's solar powered, or not solar powered, but has a photo cell on it, and it's controlled by the power company. I have no way to turn it on and off. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's very frustrating when it doesn't work. Because it's pitch black out here. I mean, let's just give you a reference. I'm walking on the side of my house right now, and I can't believe that I put these cheapy eBay lights on here, and that's when I first moved out here. That one still works. None of the other ones do anymore. I don't understand how or why. But anyway, that one's just a detector. So anyway, walking into the front yard right now to show you how dark it gets. I mean, you can kind of see my face, but you still get the shadow from the light. It's doing pretty good. It's kind of picking up. And then you can see my little strobe light here, which is supposed to be another one of those lights. It doesn't work anymore. But anyway, walking back this way, back towards the shed. Let's see if the light works again. Yeah, look at it. Just somehow it works all the time. I don't know why. But anyway, I'm going to show you my motorcycle. That was one thing I had mentioned in one of my other videos, that I got a motorcycle. This one I'm kind of proud of. I think this one's pretty cool. This is the motorcycle is actually a Zongshen RE3. It's a Chinese motorcycle. It's approximately a 400cc. It's a 2021 model. I bought it brand new. Came from Azusa, California. There's a company that sells these bikes. They rebrand them as a CSC RE3 SG400, they call them. I'm looking at the bike. And kind of a cafe racer inspired bike. I think it's cool. It's not everybody's thing, but I think it's kind of neat. It has a 70s, 60s, kind of 70s kind of look to it with a modern twist because there's like LEDs and stuff on it. Anyway, I'm going to show it to you now and let you guys kind of breathe her in. I will, before I show you, I will say one thing. I live in Nebraska. I'm the only one in Nebraska that owns one of these. They are around in other places. I'm actually a member of there's a group on Facebook that own the 250 version and the 400 versions, and the CSC makes other bikes, or I should say sells other bikes as well. But these two, the 250 and the 400, are similar styling, so they kind of group them together on the Facebook page. So everybody's kind of trading ideas and talking about what could be improved. Typical stuff with like any vehicle. What do you want to call it? Vehicle page. It's just pros and cons of the vehicles and what they can and can't do. Well, here's this one. Like I said, I'm trying to remember. Shipped to my house. Keep in mind, this is a brand new bike. Had been driven a little bit for testing purposes. I think I had like 50 miles on it for testing. It was crated up, shipped to my house via freight truck, and I spent just a hair over $6,000 for this bike. I know some of you are thinking that seems awfully expensive for a Chinese motorcycle. Keep that in mind. Yes, you might be right. You could buy a 750 Honda or something like that, of a similar look for probably a heck of a lot cheaper. I'm going to say this right now. This bike is fuel injected. It has rear ABS. Those bikes don't have that. This bike fires right up. In fact, a couple weeks ago, I just drove that thing 84 miles and back. Not total. 84 miles one way, 84 miles back. And I'm not a seasoned motorcycle rider. This is my first motorcycle that I've owned, and never missed the beat. It just does it. It's got a 6-speed gearbox, front and rear brakes like they all do. It's got twin exhaust because it's a parallel twin. But anyway, I'll show it to you. Stop talking about it. Show it to you. I can give you a little bit better. We'll do a kind of a vertical shot. Maybe get a little bit better view. So yeah, there she is right there. So I think she's a pretty cool looking bike. I don't have the key for it. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to fire it up for you. It doesn't sound that awesome. It kind of just, it sounds like a four-wheeler, I'm going to be honest. But that's kind of the reason I bought it. I think that's pretty sweet. It's got like a vintage look to it. I like it. It's got a nice flat black seat. It doesn't have, the cafe racers normally have a hump. This one's supposedly for a passenger, but passenger in China maybe if you're a small little person. I'm 6 foot tall and about 230 some pounds. Not a small dude. So if somebody's riding on the back of that, they're going to be tiny. I'll end up knocking them off the back, and I'm sure they won't appreciate that. But it's got a digital speedometer, and that's the tach there. If I can maybe show you a little bit better. The tach's the gauge, and the digital speedometer. It has a fuel gauge, is the digital fuel gauge, which is very nice. It has a low fuel light, has a neutral light, has an ABS light, has a high beam light. It's got a check engine light, and then it's also got turn signal indicators, and then pretty much all your typical kill switch here, start switch. You got your hazards, you got your high and low beam, you got your flash to pass light, which I don't know. Got a horn button, then it's your turn signals here. The one thing that I will say that is kind of annoying on this bike, to turn off your turn signals, it's on like that. You always have to push it in when you're done, otherwise the turn signal doesn't shut off. Kind of weird. The other thing that I think is kind of funky on it, they got this funky little quarter fender thing, and then there's a gap in between here where the tire, there's nothing covering the tire. I don't quite understand what they were trying to do there. Seems a little odd to me. But it does have LED turn signals and stuff on it, so it's modernized. It's got this red brake light on the back, and then on the front, this is a LED light, high and low beam, of course. Has a running light built into it. And then I think that's supposed to be mandatory on motorcycles. First motorcycle I've ever owned. I didn't want a big bike, but I'm not a small person, so a 250 was too small for me. And this bike, I will say it will allegedly do 100 miles an hour. Allegedly. It is not the fastest bike out there. Not claiming that. It honestly, for somebody like me who's just getting into motorcycles, and I enjoy them, but I can't say I'm a diehard. There are definitely cooler bikes out there. I'll be honest. There are some. I really like Triumphs and like Royal Enfield stuff. I really love that like vintage kind of look. I'm not into crotch rockets that much. I like Harley stuff, but it's out of my price range for sure. Like I said, $6,000 for this was a little more than I wanted to spend on a motorcycle, but honestly, I'm happy with it. I think it's a good bike. It does what it needs to do. I would recommend it to anybody that's wanting to get into motorcycling. Like I said, I'm an amateur. My only other experience riding a motorcycle, my uncle had a Suzuki 90 that was like an 70s model, and I was about 14 or so riding it around in the field. And all I remember from that bike is it was a pain to start and it was heavy. For a 90cc motorcycle, it was heavy. It was a dual sport. It had a high and a low range little rocker shifter on the side of the engine. It was kind of different. It was supposed to be for on off-road use because it kind of had like these knobby tires on it. It wasn't like a dirt bike though. It didn't. They were like really, I don't know, like wore out, very, I don't know, funky looking knobby tires. They weren't like they're not like this kind of tire. They're like weird, like almost like picture like a mower tire. They were kind of that style thing. They weren't like a dirt bike tire. They weren't that aggressive. Anyway, or yeah, here would be a good comparison of what they looked like. They look like this. They weren't overly aggressive. Anyway, that's getting off subject there. But anyway, that was my experience riding motorcycles, and honestly, I enjoyed it, but never really got to ride it that much. We took the windscreen off he had on there and put it in the shed, and my uncle had the cattle in the yard, and they got into the shed and they busted at the windscreen. So my uncle got mad and he took the bike away, and we didn't get to ride it after that. So anyway, years go by. A guy I know that lives in town here, he had it's a Suzuki, I think it's a 250. I'm not 100% sure. Kind of a similar styling to this bike. It's a single cylinder, but it's fuel injected. Neat looking bike. I always thought that's kind of what got me back into them because I seen one before and I was like, whoa, that's a neat bike. And turns out it was new at the time. I'm like, that's a new bike? They make bikes that look like that still? Because I thought everything looked like a crotch rocket or a Harley Davidson anymore. You know, I didn't think there was anything like vintage kind of look, and that had a vintage look. That looked like it came straight out of the 70s and or 80s. And I like the look of it. I was like, that's cool. And I always kind of wondered when I was kind of bugging him about it, you know, you want to sell? No, it's for my kids. They're going to learn how to ride on it. Well, I don't know if his kids ever really learned to ride on it. But needless to say, he let me drive it, and he was driving it around town. I was just like, geez, this thing's peppy for a little 250. And I think it's because it's fuel injected, because most of the other ones are doggy. No, that thing would go. And he said, oh yeah, she'll do 65, no problem, which I don't know about that. But like I said, this one will do. She'll cruise 80. It don't have a problem with that. 6-speed transmission, she'll get up and go. It's like I said, not the fastest bike in the world. You aren't popping wheelies and like a crotch rocket or nothing like that. It's they call it a 400, but I think it's like 380 cc, and they kind of round it up a little bit to make the number. It may not even be that big, I forget. It's like maybe 370 something. But anyway, it's water cooled. That is one thing that it's a pro and a con. Water cooling is great, but when you have problems with it, it's not as easy to fix. That's kind of the downside. The other bad thing is, due to the fact that they are the only shop that I know of that sells CSC motorcycles is based in Azusa, California. There are no shops anywhere around here. So if it breaks, I either have to get parts from them, or I have to somehow get stuff online through Zongshen, which is the actual manufacturer of the bike, and then have them shipped. And either myself has to work on it, or if I'm lucky, I can find a shop that's willing to work on it, which may be a bit of a struggle because it's a Chinese bike. A lot of shops get weird about it. Anyway, we don't work on Chinese junk. We work on Japanese stuff, which to me it's like tomato. Who cares? And maybe it's just because they're not familiar with it and they're scared they're going to break something. But Anyway, and I have changed oil on it once. I forget how many miles. I think I got just over 1,500 miles on it. I think. Don't quote me on that. I might actually be wrong on that. But yeah, she's just getting broken. I said she's good. She's a good little runner. She does what she needs to do, and I honestly enjoy riding it. It's said just perfect for me. Some people complain it's not, it's not a 650. You can't just go and go and go. It doesn't, you won't catch up to the big bikes. I'll be honest. I've tried. I was following the same guy who let me ride a Suzuki. He's got I think it's a Suzuki Boulevard. I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on that. And I was just ringing her out, and I saw him in my rearview mirror. He kept catching up to me, kept catching up to me, and I was like, man. And I got up to the stop sign. And he pulls up next to me, and I was like, oh hey. I didn't know it was him at the time. I thought it was kind of funny, and he's just like, what are you trying to do? Outrun me? He's like, that ain't gonna happen. I'm like, yeah, I didn't know it was you, but it's funny because I said, yeah, I couldn't have outran him because I forget how many cc's they are, but yeah, it's a lot bigger bike than what I have because this is like a cruiser. But anyway, so that's the story with this bike. I said I really enjoyed it. I had it at a car show last year, and a lot of people were interested in it. They were like, "What the heck is that?" And older people surprisingly liked it. And then they get a little squeamish when you tell them it's a Chinese motorcycle. But I said, "Hey, they sell them all over the place. The dirt bikes are actually pretty popular." I said it's a good entry level bike to get in on if you're. Like I said, I know it's a kind of one of those whose side are you on kind of thing. It's like I just went with. I wanted something that had a unique styling to it, and to me, it suited my needs, I guess, at the time. I can't say it's like the best motorcycle in the world because it's probably not, but so far so good. It's been a good bike for what it is. And shout out to CSC Cycles. You guys are awesome. You guys helped me out when I first got it. I broke the brake leveler trying to get it off the pallet, and the bike fell over. They sent me out a new one free of charge. Thank you guys. I really appreciate that. That was and the reason it fell over is because I blame the person who put it on the crate. They had the ratchet strap wrapped around the exhaust, and it got stuck, and I couldn't get it off, and the bike fell over in the process. Anyway, not pointing fingers, but it's unfortunate that happened. So I don't know, lots of rambling going on in this video. Just showing you a lot of the random stuff I have in the shop here. Gonna try to wrap this one up now, I guess. Trying to think of more content to show you guys. Right now I'm saying a lot. Just trying to come up with more content for you guys. A lot of it's just going to be random stuff I think of. At some point I'm going to show you my Ranger pickup. I probably could show you tonight, but I think I'm going to wait till it's daylight out because you kind of get the full effect. And odds are, since I got it parked in the shed again, birds probably crapped on it, so it's going to look like crap. Literally and figuratively. It looks very nice when it's clean, but when it's dirty, it doesn't look very nice. Maybe there's a car show coming up in Toohey, Nebraska called the Toohey Nationals, which it's just a joke, I think. But it's a pretty decent sized car show. Get out 140-ish cars, something like that. I forget what the most they've ever had there. Maybe I'm off on the number, but it's over 100 cars. We'll say that for sure. And normally I have my it's a 1988 Ford Ranger pickup there that I fixed up, and it's I call it my show truck because I don't drive it hardly ever. Then I got my Dodge Challenger, which I showed you a video of when I was putting the cluster in it, and I said that guy there made it there one year and got third in its class, which was pretty cool. And it was funny when they were announcing because they're like, "What, CSC RE3 SG400?" and they're just never heard of it. And but yeah, it was kind of funny just because I was like, I'm the only one that has one, and it's a rare bike, which is not really, but I enjoy it. It's something fun. But anyway, I'm gonna wrap this video up. Guys want to know some more about some of the stuff I got going on? Give me some ideas for videos. Like I said, I watch a lot of other YouTubers. I'll list them off here. Just if you guys are interested. The Bearded Mechanic. He kind of got me into motorcycles because Sean from Bikes and Beards or NSRK Cycles. They're just kind of the funny, happy-go-lucky guys that liked motorcycles, and that's they kind of got me going. I and Sean was a funny guy as well, and I'm trying to think of can't think of the Craig. Craig's the bearded mechanic. He does a lot of mechanic style videos, and I like those. They're very interesting to watch. Those guys said cool guys to watch. Unfortunately, I don't know if Bikes and Beards are still doing videos or not. Anyway, moving on. I'll give a shout out to Junkyard Diggs. Love his content. He's a neighboring state over, Iowa guys. And then Junkyard Mook would be his wife. She's good gearhead gal. She likes working on her stuff too. Enjoy their content. Another guy to shout out is Golden Ruster Bust. He's an interesting guy. He's kind of getting into the YouTube stuff. Might be a little bit fancier than I am. Like I said, I'm still holding the camera and I'm still holding the phone in my hand. But I like his content too. He does a lot of like ATVs and four wheelers and snowmobiles and things of that nature. Has done some car stuff. His grandpa, that guy's cool. Another guy, Luke from Thunderhead 289, one of the old school guys. Younger guy, but has some awesome content. Very knowledgeable guy. You want to learn some stuff about carburetors? Go check his channel out. He knows what he's talking about. He's doing a thing called a carb cheater now. A little bit above my head, but if you want to dial in your air fuel ratio